What's up YouTube? Cody Bidlow with AthleteX coming at you with another video. Today we're going to be talking about endurance training for sprinters and how you can incorporate endurance training into your sprint training program. When it comes to endurance training for sprinters, there's a couple main things you need to consider. First of all, do you need more work capacity, or do you need to have the endurance that is required to run something like a 100 meter or 200 meter dash in one high intensity bout without stopping? Generally, at the beginning of the year is when you're going to want to focus more on sprint capacity. Sprint capacity workouts are going to range from acceleration to speed distances, so they could be anywhere from 20 to 70 meters per repetition. You're going to be doing them at a really high intensity level, but the rest periods are short. So that way you're challenging the body to bring energy into the muscles, into the brain, and get everything ready to go for that next rep. You're challenging the body not by distance, but by repetition, by short rest intervals with those repeated efforts at high intensity levels. As you do this over time, particularly in your off season and your preseason, you're going to build the work capacity that you need to then further lengthen out those runs, lengthen out the rest periods, and start doing work that is going to transfer over into your competition more effectively. Capacity work is training to train. You're building your overall battery, which allows you to train at the level that you need to get better in a sprinting event. On the flip side, something like a speed endurance workout is going to focus on one continuous high intensity repetition followed by a longer rest interval, which is going to train you for the demands that are more specific to competition. Over time, both throughout your career and throughout a season, you should progress more from capacity work to speed endurance, special endurance type of work. So that way you're progressing from the things that build your foundation, build your base of training and your ability to train, and you transition that into the things that are going to put you into peak shape to compete at the times when it is most important. Within the specific endurance category, which is where I would throw speed endurance, special endurance 1, and special endurance 2, there is quite a wide range of work that can be used, and that work that you choose to use is going to be more dependent on the type of athlete you're working with than anything else. So for example, special endurance 1 might be 150 to 300 meters per repetition. That could be useful for a 100 or 200 meter sprinter. On the flip side, special endurance 2, that's ranging from 300 to 600 meters. I don't believe that doing an all-out rep of a 500 meter sprint for a 100 meter dash sprinter is going to do anything of benefit for them other than make them tired. If instead you're working with someone who runs the 400, yes, that is someone who would benefit from running a 500 meter sprint as hard as they can in training. That's going to build their ability to run through that finish line and not just get to the finish line. But if your event only takes 10 seconds and then the reps that you're doing on the track at full intensity are taking 55, 60, 75 seconds, well, you are far outside of the range which is relevant to your event. So the specific distances that you use have to be based off of where you're at in your career, where you're at in the year, and most importantly, what event do you run? If all you run is the 60, then doing 200 meter sprints is probably not going to be as beneficial as doing 120s to 150s for your longer speed endurance work. If you're a 100 meter runner, maybe you go up to 200, 250, or 300 meters in your training. If you're a 200 runner, 250, 300, maybe 350 meters in your training. But you're still staying within a range that is somewhat relevant to the speeds that you're at, the technique that you use in your competition, as well as the overall intensity level and the foot speed that you can achieve throughout that whole rep. If what you're doing on the track for your endurance work makes you run really slow at the end, running really slow is not going to transfer to running really fast in any direct way. So you have to keep that in mind as far as what are you doing on the track and how is it relevant to what you need to do when you compete. Now, outside of the types of endurance training which are strictly related to sprinting, we also have tempo endurance running. Tempo endurance workouts are going to range from 100 meter reps all the way up to maybe a 400 meter rep, but these are going to be done at 50 to 75% effort, and they're going to use, once again, shorter rest intervals. These are going to allow you to build general aerobic qualities of endurance. They're going to build overall muscle tissue, connective tissue, and they're going to give you a lot of opportunities to hit and bounce off the ground, which is going to help develop the tendons in your legs, the circulation throughout your whole body, and just make you a more overall fit person. Now, these workouts are not going to make you run faster in any direct way, but they can give you a fundamental base of cardiovascular capabilities, and these are what's going to help you do these other types of training and be able to be in shape enough to handle them. Outside of endurance training that incorporates strictly running, there are other things you could do. For example, you could do endurance bounding, or you could take sprint drills you use in your warm-up, lengthen the distance over which you do them, and shorten the rest period. Also, you could take something like a bodybuilding workout, do it with your breath held each set, and do it with short rest in between each set, and now that's going to make you really challenged for oxygen. If you hold your breath while you're doing a bench press, that's going to be challenging. So that's another way where you could target some general endurance qualities while you're doing other things like the bodybuilding, or while you're trying to develop elasticity, spatial awareness of how you're projecting through the air using bounds. Well, you could do them over a longer distance, shorten the rest, and that's also going to help develop more general but somewhat specific endurance qualities that can be relevant for sprinting. Something like an endurance bound or an endurance drill is going to be really good for building specific strength in certain areas, such as the hamstrings, the hip flexors, the ankle, the feet, but you can incorporate or modulate those shorter rest periods so that way you are challenging the body for some sort of endurance quality. Now, similar to the sprinting, where you could do a sprint capacity workout or more of a specific endurance workout like a speed endurance workout, well, you could do the same thing with the bounds. You could do the bounds where you're going for as hard as you can but with short rest intervals to build that capacity, or you could do them over really long distances like 120 meters of bounding. Now, not everybody is going to be able to do that, but if you can, well, that's another way where you could take something that is in that category of training to perform, like speed endurance, like special endurance, where you're doing all out as hard as you can for one single rep followed by full rest. You could take that same idea and apply it to endurance bounding, to where now you're blending different types of work but into the same overall category of work. So that is to say, if you're doing a sprint capacity workout, you could do, say, 3 sets of 4 30-meter sprints with 30 seconds rest in between, and then maybe 5 minutes between each set. And then after you do those sprints, now you go out onto the grass and you do 6 by 50 meters of alternate leg bounds, and you do them with short rest. So that way that is oriented at capacity as well. Later in the year, maybe you're doing 4 by 80 meters, 6 by 80 meters, or 4 by 150s on the track, all out with with longer rest intervals. Well, what can you pair with that speed endurance workout? You could pair that with maybe 90-meter straight leg bounds on grass with full recovery in between. So once again, you're taking the same type of workout on the track, modifying it so that you can use it with bounds, but ultimately they're all targeted at the same goal of going as hard as you can for as long as you can, and then recovering so that you could do it again. Now, over time, you're going to progress from more capacity-oriented sprint workouts to more speed endurance and special endurance-oriented workouts. Acceleration capacity will transition into acceleration development at some point. Speed capacity is going to progress into speed development. The tempo endurance runs you do will eventually sort of drop off, and then you will introduce speed endurance. Speed endurance will then get longer over time, and then it'll turn into special endurance. So over time, you are lengthening the reps that you're using for each specific thing. Once you progress to using short rests and you can handle that, say in your speed capacity workout, well, now you're going to progress those rest periods to be longer as well. So that way those speed reps you're doing are going to be higher quality. Similarly, the things you do in the gym, maybe you did do aerobic strength in the first couple weeks of training. Well, that's going to shift more to strictly strength and power-oriented work, as well as maybe some prehab or rehab type work, and that's it. So the endurance training that you're getting out of the gym is going to drop off after that initial period of the year, and then you're just going to use those capacity workouts and those specific endurance workouts like speed endurance and special endurance. That's where you're going to get the bulk of your endurance training throughout an entire year of sprint training. With tempo endurance, like I said, that can transition into speed endurance over time, where maybe in the first part of the year, maybe the first month or two, you're only doing acceleration capacity, speed capacity, and tempo endurance when you're on the track. But maybe after a month or a couple months of that, you could progress to some acceleration and speed capacity, some acceleration and speed development workouts, some tempo work, and some speed endurance work. Then after that phase, you toss out all of the capacity work, you toss out the tempo endurance work, and now you're strictly focusing on speed development, acceleration development, and speed endurance. By doing this, you're progressing to more specific work throughout the year. It's also getting more intense, it's getting faster, and you're getting, you're moving toward the direction that you want to go. You're moving toward that point at which you can be in the best state of readiness to perform at competition when it matters. So you have to consider and you have to visualize in your head, where are we going and how can we progress this work over time to get there? One more thing to consider. If you could do a capacity workout and you're fine, you could do it, your times don't get any slower throughout the workout, you can handle really short rest periods and still do it, I don't necessarily think it's going to be in your best interest to keep hammering on that when you could be spending that time working on developing your acceleration capabilities or developing your force production capabilities in the gym. Maybe that energy you're spending on capacity could be better used in a speed development workout, in a speed endurance workout, or in a power development workout in the gym. So just because all of these aspects of training could be included in someone's program throughout a whole year doesn't mean you need to. But at the same time, if you're watching this video, you're probably not an elite sprinter, so you probably do need to develop these capacity qualities. Just keep in mind, at a certain point, you're not going to necessarily gain anything by improving your general endurance or your work capacity, and instead you need to focus on very high quality sprinting at the highest intensity levels that you can with the recovery periods needed to repeat those efforts throughout a workout. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate you watching this video. While you're here, please hit a thumbs up so YouTube knows it's a good video and it'll show it to other people. Share it with a friend if you think they could benefit. Subscribe if you haven't. And please leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this video, what you do for endurance training, and maybe someone else can learn something from what you have to say. So thank you guys once again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you guys next time. This is Cody Bidlow with Athlete X, signing off.